let me get to Joe Buck, Fox NFL, baseball play-by-play announcer. Where are you, Joe?
I'm sitting in my damn desk where I've been for the last 2 damn weeks.
Describe the office there. Take inventory for me.
A lot of pictures of myself.
Of course.
That's kind of the way I roll. Me in various poses. Me with friends that I haven't kept up with over the years. There's some pictures of my wife in here. There's one picture of my kids. That's irrelevant. There's a bunch of Emmys sitting around. There's 2 bobbleheads. There's a lot of books that I've told people that I've read and haven't.
The one thing you grab, if you can only grab one thing leaving in the house.
Emmys, all of them.
Of course. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the one thing I would grab, there's a picture. I mean, I figure, if I'm running out of the house, I'm running out of the house with my wife and kids, so we can replace those pictures. But there's a picture of my dad and me that I joke about the Emmys for a lot of different reasons. But there was one night we had in New York where he got a Lifetime Emmy, and I got to present him. And he and I are sharing a hug that there's a look on both of our faces that I would never want to lose. And it was taken with one of those disposable cameras that we bought at the Marriott on the way in, and somehow the picture actually turned out. So that definitely would be something that I would search for in the smoke. And by the way, I'm talking as somebody whose mom's house burned to the ground. So you do lose a lot, and whatever doesn't get burned gets drowned. So it's not a laughing matter, but I would definitely go after that picture.
How are you keeping sharp?
I don't know that I've ever been sharp.
Fair enough.
I do know. Yeah, we are. I would assume you're in the same boat as me. I'm really flooded with information. With daily clips that Fox has some service that'll pull clips from every newspaper in the country or different blogs or different websites or whatever that kind of consolidates the different baseball stories, the different football stories, newsletters, whatever I get online. And I feel like I'm kind of more dialed in than I've ever been. There's just nothing to do with the information. But I've done probably more reading in my quote unquote off season than I've ever done because I'm sitting around the house and trying to duck away from my almost 2-year-old twin boys.
What have you heard about baseball?
I really haven't heard anything. I don't know that anybody knows any real information. I would imagine if you sat down with Rob Manfred right now, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, he would have no real idea of when they're going to get going. I mean, and maybe if. I would like to think that there's going to be a season. I would like to think that if they got 80, 81 games in, like half a season, it would feel like a Major League Baseball effort. But I think anything short of that, they're going to have to get rolling, in my opinion, by at least mid-June. I don't see May as a possibility, and they're basically going to have to start spring training over again whenever they ramp up. I mean, all this stuff seems silly when you think about loss of life and this whole pandemic situation that is literally around the world. So I get it when people roll their eyes and you're talking about sports, but it's a big part of American life. And, I've talked to our producer with golf. The U.S. Open is mid-June. I would say that's iffy. And even if they do play it, or even if they do get back to baseball, who knows what the crowd situation is going to be like. So it's a brave new world, a totally different world, and I don't know that anybody can tell you anything. Nobody at the network has said one word about when baseball will start up. Nobody knows.
But we're going to be so backed up with all these sporting events. If you look at golf, baseball starts, the NBA, if they try to squeeze that in, NASCAR try to get that in. There's hockey that needs to be squeezed in here, maybe soccer that needs to be squeezed in. Then you start with the off-season workouts or training camp with the NFL. I don't know if we have enough time to put all of that in a span of about, 5 months.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I know from a reliable source that, at least with regard to hockey, their plan is, first of all, they need to make sure nobody tests positive, whenever the startup date is looming. And then they'll have a camp for about a week. They'll open up the playoffs to even more teams than they typically have, and I think they'll just slam right into a playoff situation and play the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there's no way they can finish the regular season, readjust, go into the playoffs, and I think it's going to be that way across the board. I don't know what Major League Baseball is going to do with a shortened season, and maybe they have to or get to toy with the postseason picture and add teams like they floated a month or so ago. And the postseason looks different not only in 2020, but going forward. Maybe it's an opportunity that way to get people looking at the playoffs in a different way than they ever have in Major League Baseball.
Talking to Joe Buck, Fox NFL and baseball play-by-play announcer. He has been inviting fans to send him videos so he can call play-by-play. And you said on Twitter you did about 12 videos yesterday. Do you want to ask for more here today?
Oh yeah, I mean they're stacked up.
Oh, okay,
trust me. But I'm happy to get them, and I want to keep doing them. What I didn't realize was I got these videos. Fox compiled them for me because it has nothing to do with anything but my technological ineptitude. And they sent me the videos. I did the voiceover into kind of a portable recording device, and then I sent those files back to somebody at Fox, and then they're putting them on top of the videos. And then I got a note last night, well, we're trying to clear the videos, I guess, with the people who sent them. So they'll start hitting the internet today. I don't want everybody to hold their breath like these are the this is Michelangelo presenting play-by-play of somebody throwing darts in their living room. But those are done. I'd like to do 10 or 12 a day just for the hell of it. And people seem to enjoy it. Hopefully they do. If they don't, I'll stop. If they do, I think it's a chance to maybe raise some money for people who desperately need it at this time of total shutdown.
And what are you asking for from those who send in videos?
No, just a donation somewhere. I mean, I have no way of following up on it. I think I'm just playing on people's guilt, playing on people's their word, and hoping that they'll follow through on what they say they'll do. If I do the play-by-play to whatever they're doing in their backyard, their living room, their basement, or whatever it might be, then they've got to make a donation somewhere that matters during this time. And I don't care if it's $10,000, $10, or $1. I think the effort gets everybody thinking the right way. So I'm not checking up on it. I'm just hoping that people will actually follow through on making good, because you and I are so lucky to do what we do, and there's so many people wondering if they're going to be able to make a rent check, or wondering where the next paycheck's going to come from or when. So any little bit's got to help.
Where are the kids?
I have no idea. They're wandering the halls. They turn 2 at the end of April. Michelle, my wife, is sitting with them right now. They're coloring. And then my other kids, my other set, the 23 and 20-year-olds, are home. One's home from New York, one's home from USC, and everybody's together. So, I mean, I think there's some silver lining in it. Obviously, while people are struggling with this virus, those who aren't touched by it personally, I think have an opportunity to reconnect. And I think it's been nice having everybody at home, but I have never wanted to go pay somebody for a dinner out more than I do right now.
Rank your kids, because you told me this privately, like favorite to least favorite.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're 2 different sets. There's the older set and then the younger set. The younger of the older 2, she and I have a connection, but the older one, the trick in parenting, in my 23 years of it, excuse me, is making both feel like they're the favorite kid. So I think they both, if you hooked them up to a lie detector and you said, are you your dad's favorite kid, they would both say yes and they would both pass. So, I don't think publicly is the right time to do it. At a bar, I'll tell you which one is my favorite. And then of the younger two, one of them looks a lot like me, bigger head.
Is that a good thing?
Thicker body. No,
you
not
got
at all.
a beautiful
But,
wife. I feel bad for that little guy.
The other one, no, they're both, they're both, knock on wood, and thank God, they're both, good-looking kids. But one looks like my baby picture. One looks like Michelle's baby picture. So I'll let you guess which one of those two, at least through almost 2 years of life, is my favorite.
Good luck at home there. Enjoy all of that.
Can we do this longer, please?
You want to call in later? You want to call in tomorrow?
Yeah, I just want to sit in my office. This is so much nicer.
Because as soon as your wife doesn't hear you on the radio anymore, you just pretend you're talking.
You just hang up whenever you're done, and I'll just keep talking at a really loud volume, and she'll think that I'm still doing it, babe. I'm still on the air. I'm on with Dan Patrick.
Get a fake laugh in there too. There you go. That'll always do. Yeah, you don't want to interrupt that.
Remember the time? Yeah. 2004. What a year that was.
Good times, great oldies.
Yeah.
Good luck, Joe.
First time, long time. Okay, you have a great day.
Thank you, Joe. That's Joe Buck, Fox NFL baseball play-by-play announcer. Dan Patrick, the sportscaster. Welcome to the program. Last night I heard from some people saying, hey, you're trending on Twitter. I go, I'm not on Twitter. I said, well, you're on Twitter, and when did you get into politics? And I said, I try to shy away from politics. And then all of a sudden I saw the headline, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick with the quote, lots of grandparents willing to die to save economy for grandchildren. Once again, to clarify, that's not me. Feel free to like that if you like that tweet, but that's not me, and that's not how I feel. Just saying. Wow. I was like, my wife says to me, what did you say on the show today? And I go, nothing. Like any other day. And I got friends who are Republicans. They're like, yeah, okay. Hey, how about that? And I go, well, no. But, the lieutenant governor of Texas, the great state of Texas, that is not me. The quote, lots of grandparents willing to die to save economy for grandchildren. Yes, Seton.
Right. To be fair, we say lots of stupid things on this show. We just don't say that.
Yeah, Paulie.
So your name is Dan Patrick, and you do not support this message?
I do not support this message.
I got a text from a buddy who lives in Arizona who's been smoking weed for about 35 years straight, and he texted me, he goes, dude, what's up with your boy? And he sent me the link. I'm like, not my boy.
Yeah. So for anybody who thought that was me and are disappointed, just letting you know that that is not me. That's not my quote. That's not something I believe in. And I love grandparents. I really do. I do.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. I watched with great interest, the mock draft when it was revealed. Now, can you tell me if you think the Bengals should trade the pick or will trade the pick, the number one overall pick?
Well, I don't think they will trade the pick. I think the should is always going to be cased in. I have to know what the package would look like. See, here's the problem. In my mock draft, a lot of times my first two mock drafts, I like to create some contingency plans because drafts rarely go the way people think. People get so upset about mock drafts, and they're just an ability to work through, at least for me, to work through some different scenarios. And so I decided, so Zach Taylor was the coach, the head coach of the Bengals was the coach of Justin Herbert at the Senior Bowl. So he had an opportunity to spend some time with them. You've had some rumblings about Joe Burrow maybe not wanting to be a Bengal. And so I decided and Miami has all the draft capital in the world. So I decided to go with Miami trading up to 1, and let's explore that and see what happens to the rest of the draft board. Now, Miami has plenty to make this draft happen. What it would look like to trade, that's kind of irrelevant to me because there is enough over the next 2 years draft capital-wise to make this happen. Would I do it? I can tell you this. I think Joe Burrow is a lot better than Justin Herbert. I think Joe Burrow is better than Tua Tagovailoa. Do I think Joe Burrow is a generational quarterback? I do not think he's a generational quarterback. I don't throw that term around lightly. Drew Brees is generational. We happen to be lucky enough to have Tom. I think Drew's generational, but he's not even the best quarterback in this generation. He might be third behind Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So I don't think Joe Burrow is generational. With that said, you really need a quarterback, but the Bengals are not a quarterback away. So if there was a package, Dan, that was strong enough, I would absolutely listen. Now, it would have to be a very strong package for me to be willing to move out of Joe Burrow, but I would absolutely listen. I think you're foolish if you just say we're going to lock in on one guy, unless you really do believe that he is that special quarterback, and maybe that's what Cincinnati believes.
Where are your doubts with Joe Burrow?
Well, so my doubts, and I know what they are. I watched him in the summer. In the summer, I watched Joe Burrow. I thought he looked like a sixth rounder. I watched all the quarterbacks, and I just put him away, put him to bed. And I went to the game that they played University of Texas, and I was like, whoa, this is a little different Joe Burrow than I remember seeing. From an accuracy standpoint, he was more accurate. His placement was better. And as the season wore on, I continued to have that same mindset of, well, we'll see the real Joe Burrow pop up soon, and it never happened. And about halfway through, I started buying into what my eyes were telling me. And as I got into the tape and really studied the tape, it's really quite simple. Joe Brady, I think the move of Justin Jefferson from the outside receiver spot to slot number one was huge. Jamar Chase becoming a big-time prospect on the outside was huge. But maybe more importantly, Joe Brady, the passing game coordinator, he basically helped to craft an offense that didn't ask Joe Burrow to throw a ton of throws outside the numbers, and especially field side, which is the long side of the field. Mm-hmm. That was something that was really wide open in 2018, like wide open in terms of their game plan. Joe Burrow was asked to throw a bunch of those throws, and he struggled, and that was not something that he did well. So I isolated every throw he made, intermediate, from 10 to 20 yards, outside the numbers, every one of them. And this year he was 21 of 43. That's less than 50%, 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So I went and looked at all 43 of those throws. I wanted to see what all of them look like. And Joe throws with incredible timing and accuracy. But those are very, very tight windows when you don't have a big arm. And I think he has a slightly below average arm by NFL standards. And when he threw field side, which is across the field, those same throws, you could see the nose of the ball tail down. It was an even harder throw. So I think managing those throws, Dan, staying away from those throws is going to be the key. I don't think it's something that will sink him as a prospect, but I watched all the throws from last year and all the throws from this year. This is the throw that he struggles with, the intermediate ball outside the numbers that requires either exquisite placement and timing or a big arm. You've got to have one or the other. He's got one of them, which is why he can survive. But you don't want to make a living if you're Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. You don't want to make a living of having to throw that throw.
Given the circumstances, the situation in the United States of just travel, does this help or hurt Tua Tagovailoa?
I think it hurts him. Teams want to have their own medical staffs be able to do whatever needs to be done. That's why every medical staff goes to the combine, and then there's a second combine done for medical rechecks. Teams want their own doctors to tell them, okay, is there a long-term stability issue with Tua Tagovailoa? Well, give us an idea if there's future durability or degenerative condition. And so I think that's where Tua is hurt. I saw the video. He looks great moving around and sliding around. I think teams would love to be able to put him through the paces with certain turns and certain movements just to double check. And I think more importantly, they would really love to get their medical staffs to have their own staff's own opinion on his particular injury/recovery. So I would typically say that would hurt him. I'm still going to assume he's going third and that Detroit will trade out of the third pick and somebody else will move into that spot. That's what I'm working off of. But I also don't have access to the medicals. Teams are going to have to feel really good about the medicals to draft him with the third pick.
You know what makes me nervous, though, Lance, is, and we're talking to Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, their draft analyst, is we're seeing a small sample size with some of these high draft picks where you've seen 1 year. Dwayne Haskins was great for 1 year. Kyler Murray for 1 year. Baker Mayfield, well, a little bit more than that. Joe Burrow was great for 1 year. I don't know if Justin Herbert was ever great for 1 year, but consistent. Tua was certainly great for 1.5 years, maybe. Like it used to be, you got a chance to watch a quarterback develop for 2 years, maybe 3 years. And I don't know what Washington has with Dwayne Haskins. I don't even know if Washington knows what they have with him. Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe the Giants struck gold in Daniel Jones, who they could have gotten later in the draft, I feel like. But to try to assess that as a draft analyst, you're not seeing much. So how hard is that to assess who is real and who's not? Like Jordan Love, I watched him last year and I went, wait, what am I supposed to be looking at here? And then somebody said, well, he didn't have talent around him. I'm like, okay. Is he a poor man's Mahomes? Like, okay. Like you just start hearing this stuff and it's hard to really assess how good somebody can be or will be.
Yeah, it is. So you're right about that. And I think with Pat Mahomes, we actually had a little bit more. I had more tape to get around. I made a mistake with Pat Mahomes worrying about the things that he did where he would throw off platform, and he did some Jay Cutler-ish type of stuff, which, Jay at one point was a really good NFL quarterback, but he really defaulted into some bad habits. And I focused too much on that as opposed to the things that he could do and the things that he would be able to be coached on the next level. So he was a big learning. I had him as a second rounder. I learned a lot from where I missed on Mahomes. You have to study where you missed. That's the most important thing. Deshaun Watson, we had tape on Deshaun Watson. So all the nitpicky stuff that we all did on Deshaun Watson, well, guess what? He was a winner. We saw him in high-leverage situations. Mitchell Trubisky, never saw him in those high-leverage situations. Yeah. And he doesn't necessarily rise to the occasion when they occur in the NFL. I think Dwayne Haskins, same issue. You have 1 year wonder. Joe Burrow is in that same situation. You can't tell me, and I had an executive tell me this, Dan. I said, let me tell you got to get on board with Burrow. He's a different guy. He's completely different, and he is different this year than last year. And this executive said, Lance, you can't tell me I have to ignore the 18 tape. It's impossible.
I know.
You don't tell somebody in the NFL that you have to ignore the previous season. Similarly, you can't tell me only watch 2018 on Jordan Love and ignore 2019. You can't do it. I understand the difficulties that Love faced with all his turnover, but how you play is how you play. And I think the 1 year wonder stuff, I think that is a concern for some NFL teams surrounding especially the quarterback position because you haven't gone through the different, you haven't experienced the different highs, lows. When did Dwayne Haskins face adversity? In 1 year, you're going to face adversity? Not really. Not like you're going to face in the NFL. Deshaun Watson faced some adversity. So I think that's something that you make a really good point there. Seeing 1 year against especially sometimes lesser competition, what's that telling me?
Thank you, Lance. Great to talk to you, and we appreciate your time.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
That's Lance Zierlein, NFL.com draft analyst, co-host of The Bench in Houston. Let's bring in the popular Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL insider. He appears on NFL Live, SportsCenter, and other shows. Of course, the Adam Schefter podcast. This week, he talks to the NFL's chief medical officer, Alan Sills, on the impact of the coronavirus. NFL legend Rondé Barber on Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. We downsized here in the man cave. We're down to a couple. I got some Danettes on location there at their homes, but everything else is good.
It's very responsible of you. We are, I think, redefining how the world will work moving forward. I think this will change a lot of things. It'll be interesting to see the fallout of everything.
What do you expect to find out from Alan Sills, the NFL chief's medical officer, on the impact of the coronavirus?
Well, this is a situation really where I think he gets put front and center, and Alan Sills is a brain surgeon by day and is in charge of all these issues for the NFL. So he is the one that is basically debriefing the teams, debriefing the league office, debriefing Roger Goodell on the daily matters that face the NFL. And I think right now they're just trying to act like everybody else responsibly and do the right thing. And look, the draft is scheduled to go on April 23rd, 25th. I don't see how it's going to happen with teams conducting it from their headquarters and talking to a number of executives, front office personnel, coaches over the weekend, they all think that if the draft happens on those dates, and I don't think there's been too many discussions about moving it so far, Dan, but we're a month out. But if it happens those dates, that this would be the first draft done with remote teleconferencing, where GMs and front office members are in their home and communicating the way that so many of us are these days, which would throw a new wrinkle unless the NFL decides to move it. And Alan Sills, of course, I would think would be at the front and center of that. He's at the front and center of what will be, I think, the cancellation of all off-season activities. Can't imagine how these teams are going to go through anything like that. The 5 teams with new head coaches were supposed to be able to get underway Monday, April 6th. That's not going to happen. Can't imagine it's going to happen anytime soon. And so they've got to figure this all out, just like everybody else has got to figure it all out. You got your people out in the field. The NFL's got its people at home. I'm working from home. ESPN has its people at home. And so that's just the way the world's going to have to operate for a while now.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded like you were certainly doing more than hinting that the draft is going to be postponed.
No. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
I'm saying that the way the draft is done, I don't think is going to hold up. Now, again, I want to be very clear. I don't think the NFL has discussed moving it off those dates at this point.
Okay.
I think the NFL is determined to have the draft at that point, April 23rd to the 25th. My just guessing is if it's done that way, it's going to be done with teleconferencing from home, and there's no assurances that that happens. That's my own thing. Dan, look out the window. Look at the world.
Oh, I know. I don't think these scouts can do their due diligence. The teams can't. You can't be in person with somebody for workouts. There's no pro days. That's why, I would be surprised if the draft happens just because we're not allowing people to do their jobs. And
then how about how many times have we seen a team on the clock executing a trade? They got the GM on the phone with the other GM. They got the assistant on the phone with the league office ready to turn it in. It's all these people working together simultaneously. Now, again, we haven't been in the situation to understand how it works, but can you do that with everybody on a FaceTime call? Yeah. Can you do it through Zoom? I don't know. I really have no idea.
We're talking Adam Schefter, the mothership. If I told you a month ago that these moves would happen, what's the one that you would say, I didn't see that one coming?
Of all the moves that have happened over the last 10 or so days, Dan?
Yeah.
I guess Teddy Bridgewater to Carolina. We didn't really talk about that one. No, people thought Teddy would wind up in Tampa, and some guy named Tom Brady took that slot, and it bounced Teddy Bridgewater to Carolina, which also signed the XFL standout P.J. Walker, which means that Kyle Allen gets traded for a 5th-round pick when the Panthers – I don't think we're going to be able to get back anything for Cam Newton. So think about that for a second. Kyle Allen goes for a 5, and you can't even get anything back for Cam Newton. And you can't get anything back for Cam Newton, I don't think. If they can, good for them, because of the world we live in. Again, medical issues, former NFL MVP. Teams will want to examine him, and you're not going to trade for a guy do $19.1 million with medical questions when you can't put the guy through a physical. So that becomes problematic. So in this day and age, in this offseason, Kyle Allen, through draft pick compensation, is deemed more valuable than Cam Newton, as crazy as that is. Or Kyle Allen, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. I get it right. Okay.
How many teams do you think were truly interested in Brady? To make an offer.
Well, I could tell you this, Dan. I think there were various teams at various points going through various exercises about whether or not they would make a run at Brady. So let's just say a team like the Bears had conversations about whether they should go after Tom Brady and wait. Does that count as a team that's interested or not?
No.
I'm just asking.
Somebody who was ready to make an offer there.
Okay. I would count, in my mind, teams that ultimately did, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, 3 teams, probably.
So Patriots, Buccaneers.
Well, I don't even.
Chargers?
Maybe 4. I wasn't even including the Patriots because I don't think there were an offer ever was made there. I mean, really, this was a case where Tom was kind of dictating it to them, and and I think they were sitting back waiting for him, and it was mixed up with the salary cap or the CBA being approved that Saturday night or Sunday morning, and so you had to see what rules you were operating under. But then once they knew, it never seemed to take off with New England because Tom had to talk with Robert Kraft to let him know he's moving on. So I don't think they ever sat down, the two sides, and said, "This is what we're thinking of offering you. Will you?" I don't think they have. I don't think they did. And it wasn't one of those situations where that would have been hard to figure out if Tom wanted to be. I think both sides, as much as they love and respect each other, I think that's what people are losing sight of a little bit. I know that people want to focus on the negative aspect of it. Oh boy, there were issues, and Tom didn't feel appreciated, or each guy wanted to do things his own way. Again, I think these guys were together. I mean, Tom and Bill and the Kraft, 20 years, won 6 Super Bowls, right? And so, as it was brought up to me by somebody involved in the process, like there are people who work for companies for 20 years. Is everything perfect? No, but it's a great run. Or there are couples that are married for 20 years. Is everything perfect? Definitely not. And some couples after 20 years, they just say, you know what? Enjoyed it. Great time. Some cherished memories. Just want to go do something different.
Thank you for spending some time. I know you're busy, and stay safe, and thank you again.
Hey, Dan, I appreciate you. I hope you and the Danettes stay safe. And once again, sorry we didn't get a chance to work together at ESPN, and you went Brady on us.
Yep. I went rogue on you. Thank you, Adam. That's Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL Insider. I put it in my contract that I couldn't work with Adam Schefter. And they said, we can't have that in. And I said, but then I'm going to have to walk. Seton O'Connor, what did you learn on today's program?
I learned that Adam Schefter thinks that Cam Newton or Jameis Winston should go to a place where they should learn, which it feels actually really insulting to lump them into the same category. But Adam Schefter did.
I think Cam Newton has learned. I think Jameis Winston is learning. Todd Fritz, what did you learn today?
You're not sure why the Colts gave Philip Rivers $25 million for 1 year instead of Tom Brady for $50 million over 2.
I just don't. And I ran out of time with Shefty, and I should have asked him that. But I was wondering what other team, how many teams were interested in him, and the fact that Brady, his agent, was asking if the Colts if they were interested, not the other way around. And Brady started recruiting Tampa Bay. People thought Tampa Bay would have to recruit Brady. Brady was actually recruiting Tampa Bay when they got into the interviewing process there. McLovin, what did you learn on today's program?
You're not that Dan Patrick.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not the Lieutenant Governor of Texas. Once again, I don't have a Twitter account, and if I did, I would not put that out there that I think we could sacrifice our grandparents for the betterment of our grandchildren. I would not say that. I would not. I would sacrifice a Danette or two, but hey. I didn't say you, Todd.
I think I'm at the top of that list somehow.
Yeah, Paulie, what'd you learn?
In our pre-show meeting, I learned that Todd was given a gift 20 years ago of silk, sexy underwear by his mother.
Elmo panties.
No, they're not panties.
No,
they're not.
They look like panties.
They're boxers.
They're silky Elmo boxers.
Your mom gave you silky underwear in therapy.
I like to be tickled.
Well, we learned brought to you by TrueCar. Go to TrueCar to build your car and compare models by options from discovery to pricing to reviews. Get everything you need with the new TrueCar. Thanks for joining us. We're here for you. Do it again tomorrow. Dan Patrick Show.